a piece of land that is in northern Utah, and it is formally known as the Sherman Ranch. It dates back to about 1930s or so, about 500 acres or so of land. And this is a piece of land that for hundreds of years, before, everything was developed and, the Native Americans were still around and all that stuff, this place has been a place of paranormal activity in general, including UFO sightings, crop circles, all kinds of stuff. I mean, you just go down the list, like everything you think of happens there. And it is the subject of discussion right now.
So they've had multiple sightings over like decades, or it only was happening in the 30s and 40s?
Well, think of this. The word Skinwalker for the ranch is kind of a nickname in a sense for the ranch, because that is a name that the Native Americans that were native to there would describe as a kind of like an evil shaman, if you will, and causes these things to happen on this piece of land, right? So, I mean, you going back all the way till then, and there's all kinds of descriptions, even the people that were coming over here from, Western Europe and whatnot, all that stuff. It's been around for hundreds of years, but in terms of what you're saying, like some specific newspaper article or documentation like that, I don't know.
The most recent, I think, documentation that really was made public, I want to say it was in the 90s.
96, I think, was in that big thing.
Something like that. And then, so I forgot who the guy's name was, but it was in 1776, a Franciscan missionary, Sylvester Velez de Escalante,
There you go.
wrote about seeing like fucking like weird fireballs in the sky going over the property when they were kind of going through the territory. So it's been going on for a while, but actual like documentation that's been presented to the public, I think mid 90s.
I mean, the Ute Indian Reservation is on the border. There's like this ridge line right at the border of the ranch, and it's like this limestone ridge. And there's been like, it's like this, we were talking about in the last podcast about vortexes, and it's actually like it meets a lot of the criteria for a vortex for UFO activity, because it's
absolutely
there's a lot of shit that goes around on other properties around that.
Yeah. So you got this so their explanation. So every culture has their explanation for stuff they can't explain happening. Was like this whole one of them, anyways, was the whole Skinwalker, which is a being that can move into Skinwalker can move into other animals, other creatures, and basically move into have this change its skin, essentially, right? So that's how they described it.
Yeah, shapeshifters. Oh shit!
So there's one of them right behind me here. But anyway, so that's from the Ute Indians, and then then like in the 30s, this ranch had all this activity. But we're talking about Skinwalker Ranch. We're talking about unexplainable, like natural phenomena, like flames coming out of the ground they can explain. We're talking about paranormal activity as far as like ghosts,
huge radiation like all over the place. That's erratic, completely erratic. Scientifically verified. Now, here's one thing I want to, before I forget, because I will forget this. Y'all talking about back to the mid 90s, right? The documentation. Well, interestingly enough, Robert Bigelow, who you may recall is a huge investor in aviation, and some believe is involved in the whole US UFO research. He owned the Skinwalker Ranch for 20 years, starting in 1996.
Yeah, so that's the year.
So now it's taken over by a new guy, and the new guy is the guy who's got the History Channel show, right? Doing lots of research. Interestingly enough, at least according to that History Channel show, is that everything that was documented in those 20 years from 96 to 2016 by Bigelow and his company and all that, 100% classified.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah. And what I love specifically is when a billionaire starts getting into that stuff. It's just like he has all the money in the world. He could do whatever he wants, and he's going to go head first into it.
100%. I'd go camping there if I was a billionaire. I'd be like, yeah, here's $10,000. I'm gonna camp out here and just do.
No, you'd see if you could buy it. Oh, sorry, but yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
buy
like,
it. I don't know if I want to buy it. Dude. Don't be evil on me.
We'd be doing the podcast there, at least a podcast there. You know?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, if we're billionaires, dude, that's a good point. Yeah, we for sure would. Let's buy it for a podcast.
Yeah,
what are you guys doing tomorrow?
Hey, you guys want to go
Buy
camping in Area 51? Be awesome.
Dude, I don't want to fuck around on any type of native burial grounds.
But
we don't know if it's burial grounds, but they do.
Really, it is really weird how like the CIA, how like there's been government agencies in there working on stuff. I mean, it like.
That's what I'm saying, dude. They took it seriously enough because of all the scientific phenomena I was talking about with the EM and all that they actually are there.
If it was just a bunch of like fucking no-name people who just were claiming to see shit, but there's actual like very intelligent, scientifically educated individuals that are there that are claiming that shit is happening and they don't really know what it is. And it's a combination of stuff. It's a combination of like there's been people that have claimed paranormal, shapeshifters, cattle mutilation, UFO.
Well, the cattle mutilation definitely happens. It happens.
I mean, somebody killed them. Somebody killed those cows. Whether it was some like drunk dude who just wanted to like.
Well, he wasn't drunk. No. It was surgical. Like
surgical. Yeah.
This shit is like their eyeballs missing. All the blood is gone. All the blood is gone in the cow.
What?
And there's no blood anywhere. None.
Did they find the organs?
I remember like the cuts were surgical. Like when they're looking at the way they were cut, it wasn't like something you did with like, your buck knife, right? Like it looked like somebody took a scalpel. I mean, we can't 100% prove that, there's a psycho surgeon out there fucking with cows and has like a big suction hose to took the blood out, but some weird shit's going on for sure. And that accompanying everything else is like.
Well, some of these things, the mutilations have happened in broad daylight. And then nothing, they have cameras fucking everywhere on this property. Yeah. And there's nothing detected. It's just like the cow mysteriously appears and its eyes gone or whatever, just that, and there's no blood. So how do you explain that?
So there wasn't even supposed to be those cows weren't even supposed to be there. They just
some of the cows they put there on purpose to see what will happen to them. I'm not kidding.
Poor fucking cows, dude. Be like, nah, man. Nah, I heard about Skinwalker Ranch. Nah,
well, but it's not just like, we're gonna let you get dissected or whatever. It's more like what they do as a herd, right? Because the cows, they can sense stuff that we can't, and so they start doing something. They're like, what the fuck is going on? You go over there and you start measuring the radiation. It's sky high. What's going on there, right? So it's like, it's something underground or it's something above. And everything that I've seen is that it's way more likely that it's above. And I can give a specific, really interesting example of that, but I'll save it for later.
I mean, I did see the thing with the cows. They had like these two bulls, and they normally they were saying that the bulls would react a certain way around humans approaching them, and they would look like like a deer and like literally a deer in headlights. Like the bulls are just sitting there, all docile, like staring at something, and like they're like approaching them, and they're not reacting at all. Like. That was like one of the phenomena they were talking about.
If the radiation is coming from the ground, how would it be where because it seems to be in like really weird sporadic pockets?
Yeah.
Right. How do you know how that would from like a geologist
I can tell you this.
How would that
from an exposure, like when there's exposures, like there's certain things with radiation where it'll hold on to certain spots longer. And I don't know the exact science behind it, but a good example is like Chernobyl. If you go on a tour of Chernobyl, for instance, they take you to certain areas and then be like, oh, you can't walk over there. And it's like a plot of dirt in front of a house. And you're walking around everywhere. It's fine. They have the little Geiger meter, right? Geiger detector, Geiger meter.
Right.
Or whatever, I'm saying it wrong, probably.
Yeah, the Geiger.
But that one spot, and they'll get kind of close to you, see the numbers fly up. And this is like, we're like, what, 40 years, 30 years later, 30, 40 years later, it's in the 80s. So yeah. And so you're looking at like that's typical of like radiation. Now, I mean, like that specific example would be suggestive that there was some sort of radioactive event there, which I don't think there was.
Well, look, we cannot rule out that there was not
from us, I mean.
But like, let's just say, who fucking knows? We think we know so much about the human history and evolution on Earth and all this stuff.
Sure.
But we keep finding buried ancient aerial ancient civilizations all over the fucking earth all the time. Oh, but actually we're wrong. Blah, blah, you know, the point is like, can you really rule out that there might have been a nuclear blast on Earth? What if advanced civilization existed hundreds of thousands of years ago? Who knows? So just make up a number. And they left a trace, but they're long gone. And that trace is exactly as you're describing. What we don't know of anything else that causes that type of radiation naturally. And
It's an
so,
interesting thought.
you know what I mean?
So fucking they had a nuclear war and wiped themselves out a million years ago, and then
I mean,
like new
I-
primordial soup, new dinosaurs,
Mhm.
I don't
new
think that there's
humans,
like
new
a,
nukes.
like I don't know if there'd be like a crater anywhere nearby, but could like a meteor blast landing somewhere near there cause anything like that in terms of elevated radiation?
It's interesting.
What's the
thought,
what's
would
the
it?
what's the terrain like? Do you guys know? Have you seen pictures?
So it looks
Yeah.
like prairie.
High desert prairie.
Yeah, it's like prairie, and then you get to that limestone wall.
The Mesa.
What's your name again today? Sorry. Verbal. And then when you get to that wall, it's like it looks like kind of like a limestone sand ridge, and then past that like high desert. And like that ridge is like kind of what's like known a lot of the history with the Ute. Ute is the Ute or the Ute? I don't want to screw that one up.
Is that
I thought
the
it
is that
was
the
Utah.
bordering tribe?
the Ute Indians? Yeah, it's Unitah County. Well, that the reservation is on that border, and then like the ranch is right up against the border. So it's like
So does it end at the Mesa, like at the ridge line of the Mesa?
I think that's where the property ends. I could look that up real quick just to be sure.
There's
But,
probably
like,
an aerial map you can get online.
So they've had
My phone's about dying. Bale's got a
all these questionable activities over the years. Is any of them sightings of saucers? Does any of it have to do?
cigar shape.
Oh yeah.
So lots
All
Yeah.
kinds of
fucking,
even
one of the
other
highest
ones.
sighting areas in the world. Yeah. We got video
Okay,
of
so
it,
there
too.
is some. So they got supernatural shit going on, and we got some UFO shit going on.
Yeah.
So it's like the whole vortex theory, right? It's like you have like these weird crosses of all this different paranormal activity and energy and like history all in the same spot. And then like, Hudson River, Sedona, and Skinwalker Ranch is like that.
And then on the Skinwalker Ranch episodes on the History Channel, they had one little clip where they saw it on one of the security cameras, and it was a cow sitting down in a grass. Cow was asleep, or appeared to be asleep, and then he pops his head up, and right when he pops his head up, there's a little like a UFO that kind of just hovers right over the tree line right above him. But they caught it all on camera.
Yeah, dude, there's so much shit.
Yeah.
Dude, on the okay, I'll say it. On the History Channel 1-2, I saw it, is that they went around the property and they were checking for radiation. They wanted to try to pick up patterns. They have all this whole computer room where they got it all tracked all around everywhere. And so they picked up 3 patterns of weird ass radiation. And they're like, I don't know where the fuck this coming from. So then they triangulated it, right? And they were able to determine, using mathematics, trigonometry, that kind of stuff, is that radiation seemed to, for some reason, based on their measurements, be coming from about 1 mile high above the ground in altitude.
What?
Yeah. So they said, what the fuck, right? So there's got to be something up there, right? So then they bring in this super smart guy with weather balloons. Guy makes weather balloon. First one, it gets all messed up. So they're like, okay, we're gonna fucking try again.
It's the Roswell balloon.
No, so listen, so they got a measurement thing on this thing and a camera and everything. So they could see it from the ground. They could see the radiation levels. And as it's going up, sure enough, radiation levels keep going up and up and up and up. Gets to 1 mile. It literally disappears. Just disappears. It's gone now. So how do you explain that? What's going on? What is that?
You see the drones thing? Where the drones are like certain areas, they just like would land and just start beeping loudly. And like, what is that beeping? Like, we don't know what that beeping means. It's not like, they don't know, it's not like a normal sound that the drone makes, but it's basically just like freaking the fuck out. And they get a certain distance past that spot, and I'll boop, it just works fine.
Yeah, the phones too. They'll be on their cell phone. They'll be like, look, and it's like going nuts. The phone is just like losing its
It's
mind.
like radiation,
Yeah,
electromagnetic stuff, right? You're like,
yeah.
that's where you're like, well, like with the so like we know that there's that activity occurring. The question is like, what the fuck is causing it, right? Like that's
Well, and what's crazy is that in the hot pockets, people get sick. They start getting
Yeah.
headaches. They start getting dizzy. You know, the radiation really fucks with all
Throw
your
up.
digits, and you know,
I mean,
rods.
what are the counts they're getting on the Geigers? Like, is it dangerous for them to be there, or is it just low and they're just like, okay, we can hang? Because I
From
mean,
what I saw, some of them were. They were like, we need to get out of here now. This is dangerous. And
Yeah.
to the levels of like, you know, you probably had enough radiation for like 1 year in those like 20 seconds or something kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Natural radiation, because that occurs everywhere around us.
yeah, well, it's like when you walk to an airport, like they like when if you go visit like Chernobyl, like let's bring the same example up again, but like you get more radiation walking through an airport one day than you do from a trip out there, unless you walk on one of these specific hotspots.
Right. So there's a lot of radiation everywhere, but that's what I'm saying is like high levels, yeah, dangerous levels. Like if you were gonna go like take a nap there, you're probably gonna get fucked up, you know.
Nah.
Like this is a nice spot under the tree, and then before you know it, you're like dead.
Did you guys see the Chernobyl movie, by the way? This mini series?
No.
Oh, none of you saw it, dude. Oh,
What's it on? Is it a documentary or?
yeah, but there's like, so they have these like Geiger meters. I know I'm saying that wrong, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And like, it's a documentary. Yeah, it's like a 5-part series like that. HBO plug. Pick up our podcast. Good times. Make us rich. And anyways, they have these Geiger meters and they're going around and like they max out at 3.6. What's it called? Röntgen, whatever that specific measurement is. And they max out at it. So they all think that's what's getting pumped out. Way more of that's getting pumped out. That's why you had a bunch of people that got their skin melted off and just like died days later and all that shit. But like Röntgen, I think so. So like there's like they keep saying in the movie is like 3.6 Röntgen, not great, not terrible. And it's just like a bunch of memes going around because it's funny, but that was because that's what their thing maxed out at. And they realized it was way higher because they were trying to cover it up anyway. So nobody wanted to believe that they were having a major meltdown. Then all of a sudden, Sweden started reporting, which way over west, that they were receiving all this fallout from Ukraine. And then like, oh shit, and they had to admit it to the world. They're having like a major meltdown. They could like destroy literally the whole country if it would have ignited.
Kind of like, no, never mind. I'm not gonna say it on video.
What is currently the largest nuclear power plant in the world? Does anybody know?
Ooh, that's a quick Google. Ask the Oracle, dude.
That's the Oracle.
For all we
Right
know,
here.
it could be the Large Hadron Collider, dude, and we don't know.
Let's see, here, I'll ask for you right now. I mean, like, so, like, what about like, is it what I'd probably ask some guy, like different elements that have come from space, meteors that like, are there elements that have come from outer space that were like not known to our periodic table prior to them?
Well, that puts a lot of thoughts in my head. I could say a lot of things there, but if there is, that's some secret shit, basically, right? However, there is a theory called panspermia. Have you ever heard of this theory?
Called what?
Panspermia. Panspermia. Get that spermia.
Sperm.
Literally, it's for sperm. Yeah, it's panspermia. It's like sperm.
Later.
Basically, like we impregnate the earth. Earth got impregnated with life from asteroids, comets, that kind of shit. And
yeah, I got what you're saying.
And was it deliberate?
Yeah.
Did something fire shit out there on purpose to do this? Or
did you guys see that movie Tomorrow World or some shit with Chris Pratt that just came out?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
I was counting on you to have seen it, dude.
I haven't seen any,
came up.
unless it's on Netflix, man. I haven't seen any new films in theater.
It's on Netflix.
Oh, is it on
I've been
Netflix?
watching.
Oh, it's Prime.
Peaky
It's Prime
Blinders.
Video. It's Prime. My bad. It's Prime.
Every movie you reference this whole podcast, we never saw any of it.
You switch it
I
up.
know, it's funny, like, I literally
did
watch
any of
a
you-
movie like maybe once a month max because
I
I'm
never watch
inundated
movies.
with little Kids
Did
remember?
any of you get a chance to watch the Blood Street or Fear Street over on Netflix?
No.
It was
What's
a
that?
three-parter, so it was three films.
Yeah, it's like 70, 87. Yeah, I
Oh
saw
my
that.
god, dude, it was a blast. All three were a lot of fun, bloody. It's a blast. The soundtrack from the Fear Street 1994. All of you guys are gonna love it because it was all stuff that we used to dance to in like junior high and high school. It was like
Yeah,
a
it's
soundtrack to our childhood.
super nostalgic. Yeah.
Yeah. Really made me homesick for the mall scene in the mid '90s.
So like, I mean, the Skinwalker Ranch, like we're talking about, like that's what I was asking was like, what could have come from space? Maybe is there like maybe there may be a solution to the question of what's going on by like a meteor hitting it and like having some sort of like
I don't think so, man.
Like,
How about this? Let's go the other way. First, the cows. Why would a meteor do that to cows? Okay. First
no,
thing.
I'm just talking about
Yeah.
the radiation itself, because then you could go into like we're talking about vortexes last week, which is
Yeah.
like that's why
a portal.
they're getting,
Well, but
they're getting
imagine
pulled to
if
that
they-
area, and then like these other secondary things are occurring.
Imagine if there was like a asteroid, like pre-dinosaurs. You know what I mean? Like something that really just landed there and just it's been kind of seeping.
I think that could definitely be the case, but I think they would be able to determine that the stuff is under the ground, right? So like when you use modern science and all indications
Sure, yeah.
point towards it not being under the ground, but there's certainly something under the ground there, but the primary cause maybe isn't. I mean, it's very unclear. Like there's caves there that you can get into. There's a cave system.
Yeah.
But if you go into the cave system, you just get hella sick super quick. And so no one could go under there. You need like robots or whatever to get under there somehow. And maybe that will be something that will be done in the future, but perhaps they already know and they just don't say it or something, who knows, especially with that Bigelow research for 20 years.
With all the UFO sightings, I was wondering if the UFOs, if they're attracted to something specifically there, something geological, there, or possibly I have the idea of like possibly like, are they going there because they kind of like seeded something or planted something, or them actually affecting it versus like them being attracted to it?
Yeah, it's interesting. If indeed it is alien stuff, then perhaps there's you never know. We could go far-fetched. Say, what if there's a UFO base in the middle of Earth, which cannot be disproven, by the way, and some people do think that is the case. That could cause radiation, I would think. But, it's just, I feel like the Earth has spots on it that are radioactive more than others, and we don't understand why that is.
This is space rock. We're on a space rock, dude. It just happens to look beautiful. It happens to look beautiful in our cameras, and we're like, man, can you believe that? Nature, look at that fucking mountain. Look at this volcano. Dude, this is a space rock we're on. It just has pretty trees.
We're moving through space so fast.
The Earth has its own magnetic field, and it's not like it stays the same every second. It is varying, and there could be bursts. Who knows? And those bursts might accumulate in certain spots, right?
Well, what do you think is going to happen? Also, like I don't know if you guys saw the report last few weeks, but NASA saying that in the 2030s there's going to be a moon wobble, and it's going to affect the
tsunamis.
They were saying how there's going to be increased tidal waves, and it's going to really be an interesting decade.
Everything's about to change, man.
Yeah.
Everything's about to change.
Well, escape from LA, right?
You guys can stay at my house, dude. If shit starts wobbling, just come on over here.
Be like, look at the moon. Does it look wobbly? It does. We should go.
It will in 10 years.
Someone's gonna be sitting there, and they're gonna be like, "Fuck, these shrooms just kicked in, bro."
Dude. And then they're gonna look up and they're gonna see a tidal wave, dude. The tidal waves are terrifying to me, dude.
Tidal waves,
It's
yeah,
gonna-
they had that alert up in Alaska this past week. Alaska had what, like
you
an
told me about
8.6.
that, right?
Hawaii had tsunami warnings from that.
Yeah, it was 65 miles off the coast of, I forget what part of Alaska, but the surrounding communities on the
It's
coastline had to
big.
evacuate. Man, they get some big ones up there, dude. I mean, more like we get,
That was the biggest one in like 40 years or something. Though.
yeah. We get small ones. I don't know if you guys felt the one a few, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. That
Nah, I
happened
never
in-
felt it.
I felt it. It felt like somebody was kind of walking behind me, like the floorboards kind of moving
The Skinwalker.
for maybe like 3 seconds. And that felt it. Skinwalker.
Yeah.
Dude, our first podcast on the Skinwalker Ranch is going to be epic.
Oh, we're there.
When
Yeah,
we're there,
man.
yeah.
I wonder what they let us hang out the beginning. I know you guys got like a primetime special, but
Dude, they have fools that just their job there is to have guns
Yeah.
on them, and
They
if
have
someone's on the
full-
ranch,
full-
we're
yeah.
gonna get you.
They have full-time security,
you.
24-hour security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ain't getting on that ranch without someone finding out. There's cameras.
it was like
and
you like
everything.
walk on the ranch and then you like trip and you fall and you figure out the whole ranch is like a set. They knock
Oh,
over a fake wall.
It's like it's just some big pretend Hollywood scheme.
production set. Yeah, it's like and then, yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that would be disappointing. But
Yeah. Like, did you see the thing with the flames coming out of the ground? That was kind of interesting to me. They had this camera inside that wooden hut they're always, checking out. And there was just like randomly like just bursts of flame coming out of there. And they can't figure it out why. Like, the first thing you'd be thinking if you're being logical, be like, hey, well, is it man-made, piping there that could be leaking, or is it like, natural gas? Whether it be a mine, natural gas, whatever.
or just
But,
natural gas. It happens.
It just, yeah,
Like
'cause
when
it
you
does.
fart.
I mean, shit with what's it called with fucking like fracking, right? When they were doing
When you
that shit
fart.
and the fragging, like fracking, they were having like natural gas was getting into the pipes, and the people could light like they could turn your water on, and then they could light.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fracking is very controversial method.
Yeah.
So but my point is that like, so that's the second thing you're thinking of, and then they test it for that. So there's nothing there to explain it. That's a really weird phenomenon to me that you just have like poof every once in a while, because for things to light, obviously we all know this, right? You need fuel, you need oxygen, and you need ignition source, right? So like you only have one of those three items. So it's kind of weird, right? So like it's there is air. There's no ignition source and there's no fuel. I don't know.
It
Yeah.
is really, really weird how the government was there for years and they have yet to release any information from there.
It's
Well-
like everything we talk about, dude. The government's there doing their little.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
so-
why is it okay? But why is it now, right? That this new guy bought the ranch after Bigelow, and this guy is like venture capitalist or whatever, right? And now he wants to set up shop and make all this stuff public. Ironically, you have that disclosure from Congress about UFOs, and of course a lot of this information has been building, and then all of a sudden, around the same time as we're going to now let these new guys kind of get the information out into the public in a way that is more soothing. It's more gradual. It's like the same with all this patterns, that there's all this information out there. It's been kept secret, a lot of it, or at least they tried. And then they just keep slowly releasing it. And now it's becoming closer and closer to this point, I feel like, where people are like, oh yeah, okay, makes sense. And not just like one day they tell you, by the way, you're not alone. And they're like, oh my God, you're all shit. It's just kind of interesting. I think coincidentally that all plays a role in this.
I think the UFO thing is a lot easier for people to swallow than like ghosts and stuff, especially with the kind of like the information that's been coming up over the last 20, 30 months. Like when you're looking at things like ghosts and other like the whole like what a skinwalker concepts like that. There's a lot of people are kind of like still look at that as hocus pocus, whereas UFOs are starting to become like you're getting a higher percentage of people being like, yeah, that makes sense probably.
Yeah, I
Scientific.
see the paranormal stuff and the UFO stuff on like two different weight scales. Like paranormal stuff is kind of like on the micro, UFOs are on the macro. So I think like in terms of the micro, a lot of UFO story or a lot of paranormal stories you're going to find are very personal. Like someone's grandmother passed away. 4 months later, they're seeing her, walking around at night, or they're hearing her voice, micro level. You know what I mean?
Some
People
interesting.
see paranormal stuff or UFO stuff as like the macro. Like why are they here? Why are they contacting?
Well, but again, it's also more like we're putting that information out to the public. It's not like the government sitting there like, here's some ghost shit. Here's what we know about ghosts.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? But like, here's an interesting to consider. Just read it the other day. You should Google this shit up if you can fathom it. Roger Penrose, who is one of the most famous scientists in the last like 20, 30 years. At one point in time, he put together this theory in which he argued scientifically that the connection of how your brain works, the interweb, is the exact same interweb as quantum mechanics and reality. And they dismissed it for a long time. And it's gaining a lot of traction now because it seems like maybe that is the case, that the consciousness arises, that is, in the same way that reality arises, the same mathematical model. Now, who knows if it's true? They can't prove it yet, but it's gaining a lot of traction right now. And that's a lot of how theories go, right? People say, fuck you, you're wrong. Kill you, your theory, even,
Wait. Explain it again. You're saying the way the brain system functions is, how does it correlate to quantum?
So like basically in your brain, there's trillions and trillions of connections. It's almost endless. It seems sometimes infinite in some ways because it's so vast, right? And then you compare that to like the number of particles in the universe and the way that a signal gets sent from, say, one neuron to the other, and all the subatomic particles that go along with that process, is that every continuous second of your life, you are doing stuff in your brain. Millions and things, sometimes billions, and etc.
Firing off.
Yeah, and it's all affecting everything, just like this web. And that's a lot of what quantum physics kind of seems to indicate, is that the universe is like a web. Reality is a web. And everything is just kind of all affecting everything simultaneously. And so if that's the same system that's in our brain, and our reality is the same thing, so then like what would that indicate? Right? That would be crazy, like the implications of that.
You think everything's recorded?
What?
Like your brain could like I always wonder, like, like when you like defrag your computer or something like that, like I always wonder about the brain, like if everything is like recorded, permanently recorded, or
like are you saying like pre-recorded?
No, it's like this, like, so like I forget things, so like maybe one time in the last decade, Verbal over there told me his middle name. I don't remember what it is now. Do I actually delete that and forget it? Or
you don't know my middle name, you fuck.
Shit, man, you froze.
Yeah, you froze.
This fool just looks angry for the
whole time. Froze you on like a little face, dude. It's like you're just staring at me like, oh, son of a bitch. Yeah, but or I don't know. Like, but some information like that, like some arbitrary. Just kidding. Your middle name is not.
Well, I actually thought that most stuff does get recorded. I thought that actually everything gets recorded, and over time, certain parts of memories get shedded to save, efficiency for other parts of the brain. I'm no neurophysicist or anything, but I have studied some of that stuff. And let's just say, like, you have a memory You haven't thought of it in 15 years. And then randomly you'll be talking to someone and they say
Right.
something.
It happens all the time. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And then you're like,
All
holy
the
shit,
time.
I would never have remembered that.
Yeah, no matter what, like unless you mention that specific thing, that would never have occurred to the rest of my life.
Yep.
Exactly.
My wife did one of those today to me, and I was like, "Holy shit, I forgot about that thing."
It's sitting there.
Are you remembering it, or is the memory being placed?
Yeah, it could
in
be
there?
false memory too, right? That
Yeah.
is absolutely
Yeah.
a percentage of the things you remember
100%
didn't
true,
happen like that.
But if you're getting reminded about something, and now you got two perspectives with the same concept, the likelihood of that being a made up
Yeah,
memory.
if two people could remember that event, then absolutely. But if it's just you going, "Oh man, I remember they remind me when I was a kid or something," and no
False
one was
memory's a
there,
weird thing. It's
right?
super weird, super weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but if you said, you know, I remember today, you know, my daughter picked me a daisy, and then I was like, all of a sudden I had this memory of, you know, a funeral where I saw daisies, and then
right.
you know, I was talking to somebody else and they remembered it too. Like that's interesting, because now you're
That's a
thinking,
real
like,
thing. It's a real thing,
you
right?
never would remember that. So are any
It's-
memories ever truly erased, or is it all kind of stored like a hard drive, and then it's like, you know, like the whole, you know,
Well, I
what
also
do you call that
remember
when
reading that
you get
your
people
memories
hypnotizing
permanent,
thing?
the permanent memories start happening like it's not like when you're a little baby or something, right? It's supposedly, I don't know, maybe we don't know, but like around like 3, something like there, you start having permanent memories. Everything else is short memories. So